Hello, everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. I'm your host. My name is Shane. I'm a dude. I'm a history teacher, a sociology teacher. Kind of do a lot of other stuff on the side and around the way. But welcome. It's time for viewer request night. And as always, that means that the topic we are covering tonight was chosen by viewers like you. The dude abides. Indeed. I have sort of abidden today. What's the abode? Have I abode? What's the singular past active tense of abide? I have abidden. That's a weird one. I don't actually know the proper etymology of that. English is stupid. You could probably say it either way and get away with it. But there's probably a right way. What up, Moose? Hey, Peters. How's it going? Good to see you. Yeah. So this is Adventures in History, where we talk about history, and we have fun times, and we goof off, and we make jokes, and we talk about stuff, sort of not history related. Conjugation for the verb abide. All right, here we go. Abided. I am abiding. I abode. Yeah, it is abode. Look at there. I had abode. I figured that it was abode, but notice that you can say abode or abided. Getting back to my statement that English is a stupid language and you can probably say both and get away with it. Because, why have one rule when you can have as many as you want to, right? Thank you for looking that up, Moose. I appreciate that. Yeah, so the show is Adventures in History. We talk about history, we do fun stuff, and usually every other Tuesday we do viewer requests. And there are two ways for viewer requests to happen. Number one, we have a vote. Cue the Gallagher spelling comedy routine. Yeah, I love Gallagher, man. He was so much funnier than just the smacking things with the sledgehammer, too. And people kind of forget that, I think. Everybody just wants to see the sledge-o-matic. Which I guess is the part of it that everybody is excited about. Roxanne! Not that police. We're not putting on red lights or sending out messages in bottles. Hey, David, what's up? I'm out! Roxanne, yeah, regularly. So, the first way to have a viewer request is for that to be chosen by the viewers like you. We'll actually take options and have a poll, and everybody gets to vote. Or if people have hung around for long enough to accumulate beautiful adventure points, those can be redeemed for a stream. So, hey, David, good to see you. Batbird, you don't have to put on your red light. What up, Batbird? Bacon. Hey, Cherry, what's up? Good to see you. Magus, what's up? Alternative title, Duck the Police. Yeah, I if you had read the chat log from earlier in the day in the chat that I have with the two mods, KP and Mac in a lab coat. If you had seen the thread that we were discussing, you would have seen that one, and also the potential for Cop Dead Gorgeous. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea either. So we just went with Cop It Like It's Hot. Which I think is appropriate, right? The Popo, the Favo, the Ancient Fuzz. Yeah. We try to figure out something with Hot Fuzz, but there just aren't enough English words that rhyme with fuzz. You've got buzz and cuz and was, and that's really about it. To serve and protect. Sounds like a cop out. The buzz about the fuzz. Yeah, the RoboCop. That's another one. You can make Shane incessantly rank things. Hey, you sewing? What up? What up? Let's do some shout-outs. We got some folks in the room. Go check out Sone, who is a game streamer and is currently playing through all of those lovely old Sega games that I love so near and dear to my heart on a Sega game bundle that I did not know existed for PlayStation 4 that I've kind of got my eyeball on. Go give Batbird a follow, who does art stuff and gaming stuff and is going to be an entertaining run full of all of the lovely things that you will appreciate. And we've got David Peterson in the room. David is the author and illustrator of Mouse Guard comic book, multiple Eisner Award winner, really cool guy, and all-around decent dude. So go give David a follow and show some love. Hey, Tuna, what up? Hey, Kelly, good to see you. I do the Sega games on Monday. You play modern titles on Fridays. Ah, I see. Indeed. Yeah, so Tuna, this is actually your stream. So Tuna has been trying to get History of the Police to happen for quite some time. And just decided to drop the points and make it work. So there we go. I've got a piece of fuzz or something in my mouth. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. Tuna. Thank you, man. That's much appreciated.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
Throw these lovely Spartaci emotes in the chat.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. Spartacus.
Everybody's Spartacus, David. That's the point.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. Spartacus.
I love all of the Spartaci. You all are all Spartacus.
Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. Spartacus.
Tuna, thank you so much, man. That's much appreciated. All right, so I've seen some other people lurking in the background that need some shout-outs. We've got in the background, we've got Dirty Diggler, who is a guy that has answered a whole crap ton of really what might be elementary Gundam questions for me and has never lost his temper when I've been an idiot. He's a great streamer, sometimes does gaming stuff, sometimes does art stuff, but primarily does Gundam builds, custom paint jobs, is a consummate Gundam professional, so go check out Dirty Diggler. We've got Natty Science in the house. Everybody go check out Natty Science, who is actually doing the cool stuff. He's doing the actual science on stream. If you've ever wanted to have a lab partner that you could poke fun at and troll on Twitch, Natty Science is the guy to do. Currently working on a PhD, but going to be, from what I understand, getting back into the streaming game pretty soon. So go check that out. Got Martest in the room. Go give Martest a follow and send him whispers and tell him that he needs to stream more because he's a cool dude and does good fun streams. We've also got the Cave Geek in the room. Cave Geek, good friend, great dude, does art in a way that you probably have never seen it done before with wood burning tools and real brain tanned buckskin. It's just great stuff and good fun, and plays games later on. All of these people, I'm so lucky to have all of these people hanging out in the room. You all are good people. Hey, Techman, good to see you. I am Burgess Meredith. Hey, Ishman, hi, welcome. All right. Okay, so yeah, this is History of the Police, and despite what Moose thinks, this is actually going to be a little bit longer than 5 minutes because we're not just talking about the American police system, right? Hey, ya, Eye of the Night, what's up? What's up? Came for the Gundam building, stayed for the history. Hey, ya, Maddie, what's up? Eating KFC greasy fingers? Fast food chicken, man. I might end up with some fast food chicken tomorrow night. Arby's has basically sufficiently provoked me into eating their spicy chicken sandwich because they said that it was not a sissy chicken sandwich. It was like a actually hot chicken sandwich. But really, honestly, the kicker was they're giving you a free milkshake with it because they say it's that spicy. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy it. Number one, I do like spicy food. Number two, I have had a craving for curly fries for a while. And number three, I do quite like milkshakes. So there we go. There are also police. Holy Pinkerton's Batman. You hate how much you love fast food chicken, bacon cheddar curly fries? These are a few of my favorite things. I just have to sing that with like the jowly voice. Like, these are a few of my favorite things. Don't stand so close to me. Yep. We're going to get all of the police references tonight. You love the animated icon? Yeah, that's actually Adventure Shane. And I don't know if she is with us tonight, but I can give Color by Emmy a shout out. Color by Emmy is the artist that drew Adventure Shane down there and also helped me fix my layout. Helped me with like this stuff and the font stuff, and then this guy right here, and also did the intro screen. I'll switch back to that for just a second. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be right back. So Color by Emmy did all of that stuff, is a great professional, very easy to work with, very, very communicative. So if you have any need for graphics design or animation or anything artistic, absolutely go give Emmy a follow and then reach out. She's got links and stuff on her front page. Really, really good person and really good artist. And the world is better with her in it. I don't know if she's here, but she'll get the joke if she is. Still waiting for this pandemic to end so Shane can come visit you and Kevin MacLeod. Yeah. Kelly, we need to catch up sometime. I've actually been looking at places in Wisconsin because there's potentially some whooping cranes there. Customers can order their sandwich with a crispy chicken or 13-hour smoked brisket, both which are topped with ghost pepper jack cheese, fiery hot seasoning, fire roasted jalapenos, and Diablo barbecue sauce, served on a toasted red chipotle bun. The official product description reads, a sandwich promises 5 sources of spice, including chili, cayenne, and habanero peppers. Yeah, that's what I'm probably going to go have tomorrow. Oh yeah, there's Amy's website. Go for it. Thanks, Tuna. Adventure Shane needs to be modded into Uncharted. If it was actually me running around in the ancient ruins, number one, I would not be destroying them. And number two, I would be so much more clumsy than Nathan Drake. I'd be like tripping over crap. I would be climbing onto things that are really hard to get off of. That's a whole other story, though. We don't need to necessarily go into me almost falling off the cenotaph of Trajan. That's for the adventure hat if somebody wants to summon it, though. I don't know why people hate the police so much. I think they're a great band. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we're talking about the history of police in general. We're not talking about history of the police, the band, or even the American policing system. We're just talking about police in general. How have people throughout the course of ancient human civilization dealt with the problem of people being jerks and enforcing the law? And there are a lot of ancient sources that describe things in the past. I have tried to kind of do a chronological arrangement that skips around the world. I didn't necessarily want to do a like a zoom in on one area. I wanted to try to get a little bit. I wanted to try to get something from all of the different continents. I wanted to try to bring in kind of a universal history of the police. There's a lot more of this stuff out there, though. And we'll run into some things that we've probably seen before. And if I'm a little bit partial to English common law and the sort of evolution of that out of Roman stuff, you can probably claim that I'm just being a Western teacher, Western history teacher. And you probably wouldn't be too terribly wrong, but I'm not necessarily just a Western Civ teacher. I do like teaching world history. You don't like the band The Police. They're not my favorite. They're okay. I'm not going to necessarily turn off the radio station if they're playing. All right, so let us start all the way back in ancient Egypt. Way, way, way back. Super duper ancient Egypt. And we'll start with a word that I think people might have run into if you've been playing Assassin's Creed. And the word is Medjay. And I should note that some of these things have been very, very difficult to find photos for. And I've had to be a little bit creative. So our photo for Medjay is basically, hey, look, here are the hieroglyphics for Medjay. If you played Assassin's Creed Origin, which is set in Egypt, the main character claims to be the last of the Medjay. I like the police and Sting, even with the whole tantric thing. So yeah, Assassin's Creed Origin. It's it's the first of kind of like the new rebooted system where they're trying to like retcon everything. So the sort of new stuff goes Origin and then Odyssey and then Valhalla. Well, I didn't use a screenshot from the game then, since it's now historical fact. I do have some kind of haha jokey things, and I didn't necessarily want to go overboard with the haha jokey things. So there will be jokey pictures later. You love it when games use actual history in their lore? Absolutely. I've really enjoyed the Assassin's Creed games basically all the way through. I've played...
I'm Spartacus!
No, I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm
Finn.
Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. Spartacus.
Thank you. And it's good to see you. Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so... lost my train of thought. Anyway, I've liked the Assassin's Creed games. The stories have been up and down, but I do love the historical settings. So what's up with the Medjay? Originally, this group is not synonymous with police. They were actually a group of people that migrated from south to north, which is technically downriver with the Nile, because remember that the Nile runs south to north. So they're from this region down here in Sudan, and they're sort of closely associated with the Kushite people, though that term is a little bit later on. But these were semi-Saharan African archers, and they moved up into the Nile River Valley and became pretty quickly a good source of protection. And this is actually going to be how they sort of change over from sort of a mercenary group to a actually legitimized group, because the period of time that we're talking about, and this is all the way back into the Middle Kingdom, there had been some, Middle Kingdom, by the way, is like the 1800s or so. There had been some trouble in Egypt, and there were some problems with outsiders and even internal struggles, and it was good, especially for the priesthoods and the nobility and the leaders, to have good bodyguards. And these outsiders were sort of automatically separated from the local politics because they weren't native Egyptians, right? And they became linked with this idea of protection. And they started off being bodyguards, and then they got placed at particular religious locations, and then they kind of got linked with protecting tombs, because between the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom, we the Egyptians went through something called the Second Intermediate Period, where basically the central government of Egypt broke down and it turned into several different small countries. And one of the things that was very common when the central authority broke down was tomb looting. But if you were still wealthy enough to support a protection unit, you could guard the tombs of your family with these people that were Medjai. And over time, even though they started off being an ethnically distinguished group, Egyptians eventually started getting into this line of profession. And then eventually, by the time we get to the New Kingdom around the 1550s or so, the term Medjai had actually just become kind of like synonymous with protecting tombs and protecting monuments and protecting public temples. And then by the height of the New Kingdom, this would have been at what we would call the late Bronze Age. By the end of that period, the population of Egypt was very, very high, and it was at sort of the apex of the power that it ever had in the ancient world. And the Medjai even started taking on a little bit of criminal investigation. They could basically be tasked by these people that had money to go kind of ferret out what's going on. You love how Tetris includes history of the Ainu people. Cryonics, good to see you. I'm actually not familiar with how Tetris includes history of the Ainu people. If you would like to elaborate on that, I would actually really like to hear that. Ardeth Bey from The Mummy was a Medjai chieftain? Yes. So the guy with the tattoos under his eyes in the first Mummy movie was a Medjai. Basically protecting wealth. Hey, Magnificent. Sort of. They were originally kind of personal hired bodyguards, and then they ended up transitioning into actual authority positions. But let's remember that in the ancient world, wealth and political power aren't really that far separated. So the establishment of a sort of head Medjai and, underlings was not too far away when the people that run the politics are also the people that have the money, right? How many people lived in the New Kingdom? Hey, Lumpy. Several tens of millions. I couldn't put a specific number on it, but the population of Egypt at that time was higher than it would be probably until the classical Greek period, when it was part of the larger Alexander world. So the population of Egypt in the 1550s and all the way down to about the 1200s was probably higher than it was at that point for the next 400 years or so. You were just joking? I actually got excited. I was like, oh, really? That is how they are in your mind with the black hijabs and the dangly bits? Yeah. There's the population in the ancient world is a lot higher than a lot of people think sometimes, but it's also a lot lower than a lot of people think sometimes. Remember that it took us all the way until like the mid to early 1900s before we hit 1 billion people. And since then, we've gone from 1 billion to 7 point something billion. So it took human beings from 250-ish thousand BCE all the way up till 1900-ish to make 1 billion in population. And then since then, we've gone from 1 billion to 7+ billion. That's exponential growth. You kept hearing Magi, but you meant Medjai. Yeah, so the below right here, Medjai. We'll talk about Persia in a bit, though. I got to do a shout out for Lumpy. Everybody go follow Lumpy Dragon Potato, who builds amazing things in Minecraft, and it's just fun to listen to and hang out with, so go follow. All right, so that's all the way back in like the Middle Kingdom, 1800s, up through the New Kingdom in the 1500s. Let's move over here to China, and we will pick up with some Chinese officials that are called prefects. And if you are familiar with like the Harry Potter universe, you'll know that when you get to a certain year in Harry Potter, you can qualify as a prefect, and the prefect's job was to sort of run around and police the students. Well, as far back as the Qin dynasty and the Han dynasty in China, you start seeing prefects that act very similar to that. This is usually when we start seeing the imposition of an imperial system in China. The Qin dynasty was the first dynasty of China. The Shi Huangdi was the first emperor of China. I said that they were the first dynasty of China. That is not accurate. They're the first imperial dynasty of China. I apologize. So Shi Huangdi, who rules in the early 3rd century BC, is going to be really big on establishing organized hierarchies. And especially once the Han dynasty takes over, they're going to adopt Confucianism. And I here have a picture of Confucius, because, there we go. Some places were densely populated with lots of empty space. That is absolutely true, Lumpy. The populations in the ancient world were mostly concentrated around bodies of water. There were not nearly as many, suburbs at that point. You, the engineer, indeed, who might not have been real. Right, yeah, that's all the way back in a dynasty that we're not even certain about. We know that the Shang existed, but the first theoretical dynasty of China is what we call the Xia. And we don't really know if the Xia really existed in the way that the historical sources say that they do. And they have all of these people that were these supposedly like these sage kings that did all of these things. Like you the Great got into the river, the Yellow River, and literally like wrestled it into order so that it didn't flood anymore. There's a whole bunch of weird stuff like that. Supposedly he stayed in the river so long that the skin of his leg turned the same color as the mud on the bottom of the river. You thought the fine China was the first dynasty. Xia is the theoretical first dynasty of China. I'm pretty sure that it existed in some form. I don't think it was as big as the sources say, but I do think that there was something going on. If you're really interested, you can look up Longshan culture. The Longshan culture is almost certainly the group of people that are, if they're not the Xia, they're the people that the Xia myths are based on, in my opinion. But I'm not a complete master in all things world history. I don't do Chinese archaeology because I can't get a permit to go dig in China, nor would I necessarily want to go do Chinese archaeology because I would want to publish honestly and they would want to censor everything. So there you go. Take that with a grain of salt. Go do your own research if you're interested. But there's some places to start. All right. So the Zhou Dynasty prefects are going to be appointed positions, and these are going to be appointed by your territorial governors. So you're going to have the emperor, and then the empire is going to get broken up into provinces, and the emperor is going to appoint provincial governors, and then those governors are going to, in turn, break down their provinces into either regions or cities. And those regions or cities are going to have a magistrate that is in charge of them, and then under the magistrates. So this is sort of like your, kind of your, beat cop kind of position. You're going to have your prefects. And they mostly just did investigation stuff. Most of the time, they were not doing things proactively. They weren't actually going out to patrol. They weren't showing up in public to sort of act as a preventative. They were almost all doing reactive stuff. If a crime happened, you would go to the prefect and report this. The prefect would go and do investigation stuff and then would bring whatever evidence they found to the magistrate, who would then make a judicial decision. There were some cases, especially later on, where the prefects began to get a little bit of judicial discretion, but this is sort of mostly like petty theft kind of thing, what we would call today small claims court in the United States. And the thing about the Chinese prefecture system for police is that this is the way that it really ran all the way up until the Industrial Revolution. So this system that gets put into place as far back as the 800s in the BCE period runs for probably easily the next 2,000 years. Not 2,000 years. Math is not my strong suit. 1,000 years. It runs up until about the early 1800s, which is a really long time for a system to work. And it changes, of course, as the dynasties change. By the time you get to the later imperial dynasties, especially the Tang dynasty, you have some pretty big changes. The Jin dynasty has some pretty big changes and actually brings in a lot of people that are from outside of China, like the Mongolians and the Xiongnu, to be in these positions, and that ends up causing them a lot of trouble, which is why the Jin dynasty was so weak and lost half of the northern kingdom. But I'm getting kind of into the weeds here, and we're supposed to just be sort of talking about the police, right? So Chinese prefects, they were a big deal. They were pretty important. They were a long time running. Negative 800 plus 1800 equals 2600 years. So see, this is why we have Lumpy in the chat, because I don't do math in my head because I'm horrible at math. So yeah, 2600 years worth of stuff. Thank you, Lumpy. You saved me from looking foolish and silly. I only had to take one math in college. I took more than that, but I didn't want to. Well, actually, that's a lie. I was potentially going to be a math major, and then I had some disputes with the chair of the math department that I would have had to take for about 5 more classes. And I decided that I was not going to be a math major because I could not stand that particular teacher at all. At all. It was not a good relationship. Anyway, let's talk about Babylon. And we're going to talk about... Oop, wrong button. Come on. There we go. Pakudu. Potato helped. Potato feels like getting drunk, but will not because it's Tuesday. Stupid adult life. You might have a lovely glass of tea. And while drinking your tea, you can imagine that there's whiskey in it. It's not exactly the same, but it might get you some of the way there. So what is a pakudu? It sounds like something that you probably shouldn't say in polite company, but if we're looking at ancient world over here in Mesopotamia, Babylon 5 is the 5th police department. Not Babylon 5. Here we're talking about the Neo-Babylonian Empire, or what you might have heard of as the Chalcedonian Empire. These are the people that are going to take over in the 6th century BC, so this is in the 500s or so, and they're going to be a pretty powerful empire for quite some time. And we start seeing organized sort of policing groups around that time. The Pakudu was sort of a general keeper of the peace. And one of the reasons why these people came into prominence during this period of time is that Mesopotamia was very tumultuous. There were Assyrians, and there were Medes, and there were the Babylonians, who weren't actually Babylonians. There were Chalcedonians, and you had these other people that were claiming to be Babylonian that were actually Kassites. So there's all these different people groups, and there were a lot of internal issues with keeping the rule stable. And actually, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, the Chalcedonian Empire, didn't really last that long. It only made it about 100 or so years before it collapsed. And one of the problems was that it was just too internally full of rifts. So they needed people like the Pakudu who could walk around and... am I saying Chalcedonian? I'm supposed to be saying Chaldean, aren't I? Yeah, Chaldean. My bad. For some reason... I was saying Chalcedonian, like Chalcedon. Chalcedon is a church council in 451 that basically rips the Christian world in half. And the reason that popped into my head is because the non-Chalcedonian Christians all end up running to Persia, which is basically where we're talking about on the map here. You're getting Caledonia vibes. So that's Scotland abode, right? So Chaldeans is what I should have been saying. I apologize. I'm all over the map tonight. I'll pause here for just a second and let you all know. When I do these kind of survey things where I talk about a little bit of a lot of stuff, what ends up happening in my head is that I'll move to a new area and everything that I know about that area sort of just floats up to the top. And it kind of becomes a little mushy, a little floaty in the brain. And then I have to kind of go in with either a sieve or a machete and get to the piece of information that I want to say. Too much brain in Shane's... Yeah, too much knowledge in Shane's brain. If only it were knowledge that would help make me more rich. Right? I'm just joking. I do okay. I wouldn't be upset if they gave me a raise, but we're doing okay. Anyway, so I chase rabbits a lot when we do these surveys because I want to talk about all of the weird little things that I know about all of these areas, and I just don't need to do that. I need to talk about the stuff that I have planned to talk about, like the Pakudu. Sieve, not machete. Sometimes it's like hacking my way through a forest, though. You just kind of have to just go at it. You're like, no, that's not the right information. Anyway, so speaking of things with which to beat people, the Pakudu were armed with wooden sticks. That was sort of their symbol of office. And these were mostly peacekeeping forces. They were hired by the government or by temples, and they were basically to try to keep rioting down. And they did a little bit of investigating if somebody was suspected of doing things like organizing a revolt or a rebellion or organizing something like arson or a protest or things like that. These were almost kind of thought police, where we want to make sure that the official language of the empire is being spoken and the official documents are being followed, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, so these are like the first nightsticks. And they had these like, something that's probably like 2 meters or 4 feet long sticks that they would just beat the junk out of people with if they needed to. So yeah. They did some investigating stuff, and they were peacekeeping forces, but they still weren't necessarily like police. The idea that we have of today's police force is actually very, very modern and not really the way that police has ever been done in the history of humanity. All right. So what about a little bit later on? Let's move over a little bit, and we'll get over here to the Persians. A little bit later on, a little bit further over, and we'll talk about the Khoipans. Khoipans. All right, lots of fun words tonight, by the way. What is a Khoipan? Well, these people were interesting in that their primary purpose was to be a legal expert. So they started off as basically being kind of the Google of the legal code. These people were supposed to know all of the laws, they were supposed to know all of the statutes, and they were supposed to know a lot of the important decisions that had been made in the court cases. So they were supposed to know all the legal precedent. And they were sort of attached to the satraps. So if you remember when we talked about Persia, or if you don't remember because you weren't here or never learned this stuff, a satrap was the Persian word for governor. So the Persian emperor sort of has this new model of doing things where When the Persians would take over an area, they would very frequently allow a local ruler to sort of maintain some level of autonomy in that particular zone. This was a innovation that the Persians used very successfully because it's a lot easier to convince people to follow somebody that is like them. The Persian Empire was very, very large, and the people that were running the Persian Empire were not like the people that they conquered ethnically, linguistically, religiously. So allowing one of these local people to rule was a good move, and these people got the title satraps. But here's the thing, you still need somebody there to make sure that the satrap who is running things on the local level understands what the empire wants and what the emperor is commanding, and that's where the Quipan comes in, because this person is going to be sort of attached as an adjutant or as a supporter to the satrap, and anytime the satrap has questions on what the emperor would think or what the emperor would do or what the Persian law is, because a lot of these satraps, might be brand new to Persian law. Their area might have just recently been conquered. They could go to the Quipan and ask a question. But what ends up happening is that over the course of the Persian Empire, some of these Quipans end up becoming pretty powerful. And they become sort of a prosecutor-investigator combo, where because they knew the law really, really well, if they knew that somebody was breaking the law, they could go find proof of it, and then they could act as a prosecutor to the satrap. So like they could bring this person that they've gone to investigate before the satrap, and then they could argue Persian law and then say, and here's how they've broken it because here's the evidence that I have found, and what you need to do is punish this person. And then the satrap would be like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, you're going to jail, or you're going to get your head chopped off or something like that. So that's a really interesting sort of evolution of this role. And to put one more interesting little lump in it, there were these people. These are gold statues. These are very small, by the way. This is only about 3 centimeters, maybe a little bit more than an inch tall. These are particular types of priests called mobads, and this would have been in the Zoroastrian faith. The mobads were not the leading priesthood. Those were the magi. So earlier, somebody, I think it was Son, heard me saying magi, M-A-G-I, and I said that we would get back to it, but here we are. So these mobads are going to be sort of intermediary priests that are going to be within the Zoroastrian faith, and they're going to sort of be sent out from the central authority as religious authorities for these new regions. So if Persia comes and takes you over and you have a population that transfers its faith to Zoroastrianism, well, you're going to need to build a new Zoroastrian temple, right? Well, who's going to run that temple? Well, a Mobad is. I should type this word. They're not technically police, but they get involved in this situation because the Zoroastrian faith is going to basically become a, what's the word here? A symbiotic being with the ruling families of the Persian dynasties. And when new emperors take over, one of the things that all of the leadership wants to do is make sure that his laws are going to line up with the church teachings and the Zoroastrian laws. So these mobads end up having some level of jurisdiction over the Quipans because the religious laws end up getting treated very similar to the actual imperial decrees. They look like they have cyberpunk jaws. Yeah, they remind me of Trapjaw from Masters of the Universe. But this is really just a very high collar that comes out of the neckline here. It's just a very high collar that comes up over their mouth. I don't know exactly why that collar exists, but if you see one of these, you know that what you're looking at is a Mobad. Anyway, so not only do these Quipons end up enforcing religious law, political law, sometimes they end up also enforcing religious law, which is an interesting little twist. All right, so let's move forward. Where are we going to go? Well, if you thought you're going to get out of a stream where I get to talk about whatever I want to talk about in the ancient world, and I don't end up talking about Rome, you know you were wrong there, right? So what is the Roman police force? They're called Vigiles, He-Man and the Masters of Zoroastrianism. I'd watch that show. If it was like, by the power of Ahura Mazda, I am He-Man, I would totally be down with that. By the power of Mithras, I am He-Man. Rome didn't have police. Squeeze that in and moving on. Rome really didn't have police until a lot later on. So originally, for the vast majority of the period of time of Rome, all the way from their foundation, all the way up through basically Caesar Augustus in the 1st century BC, the very, very early 1st century CE or AD, whatever you want to call it, there really wasn't a police force. Basically, the army just acted as a police force, and individual people were expected to take the law into their own hands. Like, if you wanted to take somebody to court, you would go to the court, but then you would have to present all of your own evidence, and the person that was arguing against you, the defendant, would have to present their own evidence. There wasn't really an investigator. There were just lawyers that you could hire and judges that were appointed. There weren't really police officers. But by the time we get to Augustus, things have changed because the world of Rome was getting a lot bigger, and especially the city of Rome was getting a lot bigger. And you end up with these people called vigiles, which is where we get the word vigilant, also where we get the word vigilante from. So if you've ever heard of vigilante justice, this is kind of where it starts, right? So who were the vigiles? Well, they're a weird group of people. Originally, they were sort of just a public works director. They were in charge of cleaning up the city. So they were trash men. They were people that moved around and set up bandstands and platforms and stuff for big public festivals, right? If there needed to, if they needed to have a road fixed or a bridge fixed, there were actually Roman officials that were over the money to release that, but the vigiles basically ended up doing a lot of the actual work. Batman was Roman. He must have been a slave. Only one name. Yeah, Batman, right? Bruce Wayne would have totally have been a patrician and totally would not have been a slave. So originally the vigiles are kind of just like the get stuff done people. But they ended up taking on the role of firefighter because in the ancient world, you know, everything is pretty much made out of clay or wood, and wood burns really readily, and everybody is, you know, making open flames to do stuff like cook. So there are fires in the ancient world in these big cities all the time. And the vigiles were always vigilant to make sure that they showed up to put out the fire. Now, when it comes to the actual policing situation, they didn't really do active police work, you know. What up, Vipers? How's it going? They weren't doing the, you know, walk the beat, stop people and frisk stuff. Could you say they were semper paratus? Yeah, you could say that they were semper paratus. So, that they weren't doing the, you know, the beating of the doors down, and they didn't have the Law and Order bung bung when the scene changed. They were really just walking around at night to make sure that there weren't people doing stupid stuff. They were anti-riot police, and they were keep the idiots from breaking the temple police. They weren't really big on the whole investigatorial crime scene investigator CSI kind of stuff. Vigiles were mostly just hanging around doing their thing. And by the time of the later Empire, you saw Vigiles not just in the city of Rome, but kind of all over the place. And they had even started forming their own little units. You had these different cohorts that were stationed at different parts of the city. And I actually found some really interesting stuff here. Through surf and storm and howling gale, high shall our purpose be. Indeed. Boom. So this is really interesting here. So clearly this is somebody's handwriting, but this is a tracing of some graffiti that was left on a building in a region of Rome called Transtiberum, basically on the other side of the Tiber, not too far from what we would today call the Vatican. And it's pretty clear, based on all of the graffiti in this building, that one of the cohorts of the Vigiles were stationed in this building. And you can see here, cohort 7. So this is the 7th cohort of Vigiles, and we know that right here because it says cohort 7 Vigulum. And this person is pretty clearly not very literate because they don't know how to actually spell Vigiles, but they watched here. You can see here that our group, the Sebasiara Fecit Minutes, they had been here for a month. So this might mean that they got rotated around. The cohorts got moved around. And you can see here that they've started trying to draw a little person on a horse. The ability to ride a horse and carry a stick was kind of a thing in the Roman world that gave you a little bit of prestige. So the fact that, you know, they got to ride around and watch people and make sure that things were going the right way is probably why we've got a neat little horse guy right here. So horsey. This horse is not particularly chunky. I would give him about, he's probably about a 4.5 or maybe 5 of chunk. Not very chunky at all. Actually pretty fit looking horse. For those of you that are unaware, we've kind of got a thing about chunky horses. It goes way back. Still need to get that emote made. I did post something in the Discord today. So if you all haven't seen that, in the History in the News, there was a group of basically archaeologists who studied a whole bunch of horse bones from the medieval period, and they're like, these horses are small and fat. We're like, yeah, really? Because, you know, chunky horse, it was the way to go. So go check that out. Also, if you want to join the Discord, you're welcome to. We share stuff. Honestly, the most common thing that we end up doing is posting memes and making sarcastic comments, but that's okay. Sometimes somebody will post something and it'll kind of set me off, and I'll type these big discourses about what's going on. That happened this morning. Somebody posted a TikTok that somebody had posted about these 2 characters in ancient Thebes, and I had to kind of like, and I had a moment, and I just kind of like, anyway, that kind of stuff happens, and it's a good time. Anyway, so Vigiles. Moving along. So Rome, of course, is going to be the big powerhouse for quite some time. But what about Arabia? If you were with us on Thursday, you'll know that Arabia is kind of an up-and-coming area in the 400s. But by the time we get to the 600s, we have a new powerhouse in Arabia. And of course, that is the Rashidun Caliphate, or the original Muslim Empire. The Shane McInnes, world leader of history. Crush Builds. What's up, my friend? Everybody go give Crush Builds a follow. Crush, man. I would not be building Gundams on stream if it were not for Crush Builds. I would not have half of the confidence in doing most of the stuff that I do on stream if it were not for Crush Builds. That dude is an awesome guy. He is a really great artist. He has an amazing amount of skill. You should go give him a follow. He does digital art. Sometimes he does physical art, like traditional art. Sometimes he plays games. Sometimes he just hangs out. Dude, go give Crush a follow. How have you been, man? It's been a minute. I have not been in to check on you very much. I've been very bad about... I took basically 2 weeks off of doing Twitch anything over the holidays. So, anyway, I hope you're doing well, man. You're here to learn stuff. Where we're talking about the Popo and how they were basically not always the way that they are now. Crush is a good dude. I like that guy a lot. You should go give him a follow. Anyway, so Arabia. In the 600s, we've crossed over. We'll now talk about 600s of current era. What have we got going on over here? Well, we see the arrival of a new group of people, and they are called Shurta. What's up with Shurta? Well, here's the thing. In many scenarios, what you will find is that if you look close enough at the way that the early Muslim empires arranged themselves, you will find that what they have done is taken little bits of other people's ideas and sort of folded them in and turned them into their own sort of Arab flavor, if you will. I hear you. So, what is the Shurta? Well, the Shurta were sort of like the Vigiles. And they were like them in the sense that they were usually stationed in cities. They were going to be small groups that had the firefighter, public work director, trash picker-upper kind of person. But one step beyond that, Shurta were sort of seen as your general go-to person for lowest level on-the-ground administration. Now, what does that mean? Well, the way that the Caliphate, Caliph, by the way, is a person that claims to be ruling all of Islam, and the title itself was held by Muhammad, the person who started Islam, and then the people that subsequently followed him for several generations until the empire fell apart. And then various people have claimed the title of Caliph throughout the course of history. Most recently, in a legitimate way, the Ottoman Empire, but most recently, illegitimately, the guy that was the leader of ISIS, or Daesh, depending on where you are in the world, Akbar al-Baghdadi, claimed to be the Caliph of a new global Islamic movement. Anyway, I'm once again doing that thing where I just sort of fact vomit. I need to get on track here. The way that the organizational structure was set up was that the Caliph was in charge of basically everything. The Caliph was the Supreme Court, the legislature, the Pope, the President, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, all wrapped up into one figure. And get on with it! And as you went down, the people under him tended to have different variations of that whole collection of power as well. So if you find the lowest level of local enforcement of the law in Muslim communities, you're going to find the shurta, because this person was sort of like, if you would take all of the shurta in the entire Islamic world and put them together, you would have, one, however many of that is, zith of a caliph, right? So they're kind of like tiny little caliphs in their own little city. Because not only did they do stuff like keep the public works up and going, keep the cities clean, do firefighting, they also did tax collecting. So if it was time for you to pay your taxes, they would go and beat on the door and collect the taxes. They were judges of petty crimes and misdemeanors. They were security forces. They were bodyguards. And they were morality officers. If they caught you breaking the Islamic law, they could drum you up on charges. Like if you're running around being immoral in the Islamic world, there was no delineation between religious and secular. There was just the law. So if you were being immoral, that broke the law, and the shurta could, drag you up. What about petticoats? No, definitely not petticoats. There were no lifting of the dresses. Aren't all laws based on morals? Yes, but the difference here is that I'm trying to make a connection between the way that our system is now and the way that their system was then. So our system now has a delineation between morality and legality. There are a lot of things that are legal in our system that are considered immoral. For example, cheating on your spouse, or what's something else that's immoral? Verbal abuse. Taxation? Oh, that's a hot take. Hey, sci-fi, good to see you. Right? So there, in our world, there is a delineation between moral and legal. So today, if someone acted the way that the shurta did in our society, we would call them a morality officer. These would be the people that would go around and make sure that you weren't kissing in public, that women were dressed modestly in public, that... I'm trying to think of specific examples here that would apply. That women were not walking around unattended. So in very, very strict Muslim situations, it is very frequently the case that women are not supposed to go into public unattended by a male relative. And this can be a father, an uncle, their husband, a brother, or even their son if their son is of a certain age. Unfortunately, it is not illegal to be a jerk. There we go, Lumpy Dragon Potato. These people were the jerk police, right? Don't be a jerk. So the shurta had this really big umbrella of authority that could get you in trouble in a lot of different ways, which means that they ended up having quite a bit of power inside of the Islamic world. And that goes all the way up until the end of the Caliphate period. So that's, depending on when you want to place that, probably somewhere in the 1000s range or so. And there's debate there. But look at me not having the debate and telling you all of the options. Aren't I a good boy? All right. Let us move a little bit further, and we will talk about medieval stuff. Specifically here, we'll start looking at the transition to kind of a system that looks a little bit like ours. And we'll talk about tithing men. And you're like, what the devil is that? Well, here's the thing. So in a lot of the European medieval world, castles, yes, we're getting to castle time. In a lot of the medieval European world, the way that the justice and the law system worked was kind of based around these family groups. And a tithing man was basically like a clan elder. And this was so a tithing, by the way, is a collection of 10 family groups. So in this region, there are 10 family groups. Most of them are probably related to each other, and they're going to be run by a tithing man. And they're probably going to select that person. This is not a person that gets necessarily appointed by a magistrate or of some sort. This is usually going to be an older male relative that for most circumstances is not going to have any particular issue until it comes time for things like the law to happen. If one of the members of your tithing goes off and does something stupid and has to get the law involved, you're going to have to go talk to the tithing man of the person that got wronged by your idiot kid, Jimmy, and then you're going to have to work something out. And if that doesn't work out, then you're going to have to go up to the next level. And the next level above that is called a reeve. And I know that these are weird words that people probably don't use or haven't ever seen. I will note that one of the things that's happening recently is that The Witcher Season 2 came out. If you've read the books, of the Witcher books, they actually use the title reeve quite extensively because the Empire of Nilfgaard, the big bads, have reeves, which is sort of, I guess, the way that the writer tries to establish the fact that the Empire is very legalistic. Not Keanu, but his last name comes from this word. A reeve is the head of 10 tithings. So basically 100 family groups. And usually what's so bad about, it's not that. I don't know if I can say that. Can I say that on Twitch? I'm just going to not say that. Yes, it's Nilfgaard with an N. Anyway. So a reeve is going to be chosen as the person that runs 10 tithings. And they're going to be over something, wait for it, called... Ooh, that's the wrong button. I hit the wrong button. Let's not do that. This button. The jurisdiction of... You made that emo just for these situations. Oh, my. Man, I love football. I can say that. I can't say, man, I love football. Here, football, of course, meaning the international use of the word football, and not so much the American use of football, though I do sometimes watch American football, mostly when I'm around family on the holidays. I do know that Alabama lost the national championship last night to Georgia. I didn't watch the game. Now we're getting the Hobbits involved. They're taking the Hobbits to Isengard. Yeah, all of that stuff. So the reeve is over a shire. And a shire is a region that's a big enough area for about 100 family groups to live in. So there's where shire actually comes from. The Georgia quarterback came from JCJC. I did not know that. I found that out right now. Today I learned. Here you go, KP. Weird fact. JCJC actually changed its name. It's not calling itself Jones County Junior College. It's now calling itself Jones College. And there are people that are stirring the rumor that they're trying to transition to a 4-year university. That's interesting. Yeah. I know that because I'm keeping eyeballs about what's going on up there, and I have people informing for me. Anyway, Yeah, so shire, by the way, is where we get the word sheriff. So if you've ever heard the word sheriff, that comes from a person that runs a shire. A shire official, or a sheriff, or a sheriff. It's weird how English does that. We'll just blend everything together and chop half of a word off, right? Because, sure. But that's the origin of the word sheriff, this system right here that we're looking at. We're being graced by the presence of a puppy. Would you like to see a puppy? Come here. Come on. Oh, yes. Here's a puppy. Hello. Hello. What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, puppy. Hello. Oh, you're just shedding like mad. You're shedding everywhere. You're shedding everywhere. What are you doing? You big fluffle butt. What? 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 I don't know what you want. Woof. Are you going to woo at me? No, you're just going to sniff around? You want to come back up here and see me again? No, you want something. Do you want to go outside? You're going to have to go see Brittany. Go see Brittany. She'll let you outside. Oh, the pupper. I was told that when dogs get stressed out, they will lick the face of the dog that they feel is in charge as if to say, I can't handle this. Well, I hope that's not the case. I hope she's not feeling that. You got my Dyke's dog to follow you, to talk to you a few times? Yeah, the Ruing. Yeah. I don't think that the puppy likes it when I come in here and talk to nobody. I think she gets kind of nervous sometimes because she feels like there's something going on, but there's not really anything going on, and then she's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. She thinks maybe she does think I'm crazy. If that's what she thinks, I'm perfectly okay with that because I am. All right. So tithing men, Reeves. But what about the judicial system itself? Who doesn't want sugars? Everybody wants sugars, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to share the Puppy of War emote. Oh, Puppy of War. Why do you talk to yourself, Dad? What are you doing? What's in the light box, Dad? What's in the light box? Where are you? She's literally just sitting down behind me. Just like sitting there. Are you protecting me? It's okay. I'm not crazy. It's okay. Oh my gosh, you're shedding so bad. Like, I don't know if you can see this. Like, I just pet her, and like my entire hand is just covered with puppy fur. So much puppy fur. My cat gets very concerned when I yawn loudly and insists on protecting me every time I use the bathroom, right? The Sheriff of Nottingham wasn't elected in a county election. We're getting there. We are getting there. Because that system evolves into sort of a larger, what we might call high medieval or early Renaissance system, and sheriffs start being appointed / hired, and we end up with this new word called constable, but we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. In the medieval world, the high medieval stuff, so like what you might consider like your Game of Thrones kind of medieval world, the nobility are going to have had at that point several hundred years to really entrench themselves into the system, and they're going to have adapted that system for their own good. And this is where you're going to start getting all of the really, what you might call, it's basically just rich people running the system again. But this is when you start having court. So if you've ever heard the kingly court, this is when this stuff really starts kicking in, right? And the noble people, especially the kings, are going to start appointing agents of the court. And these are going to be people that are most likely going to work either directly for a noble, a high noble, like a duke or an earl or a count, or even the king or queen. And these people are going to basically be only answerable to their own noble, which is kind of sketchy because, you have the king's law, which is, the law of the land. But if I get paid by, Count so-and-so, I'm going to do what Count so-and-so tells me to do. And this is where you're going to start seeing the first use of the words marshal, which is typically going to be used for a person who is going to handle the border protection, specifically like marshaling troops. And you start seeing the word sheriff being used here as a royal appointed official, somebody that is going to be chosen by a noble to do a specific job of, keeping stuff in check. And I have some photos here. Special Agent Marshall. I didn't vote for him. So famous, we know a couple of famous marshals. Let me go over here to just kind of general Europe. Or sheriffs, for example, we have here Mervyn, who is, of course, the sheriff of Rottingham, if you're familiar. He was quite a horrible person and had a tendency to switch up his words. This, of course, by the way, is the Sheriff of Rottingham from Robin Hood Men in Tights. I understood that reference. And then, of course, the more famous Sheriff of Nottingham from Robin Hood story, who, of course, was a royal agent chosen by the horrible bad king to fleece the people and impose the horrible new laws that had been established by the king. What do you want? I don't know what you're after, puppy. I'm sorry. Do you want to get back up here? Do you want to come up here and see me again? Come here. Do you need to go outside? No. What do you want? What do you want? Are you okay? You just want to give me sugars? It's okay. I'm okay. I don't know if you all can see her, but she's like right here. It's okay. Yeah, it's all right. Do you need some water? No? What do you need? Do you want to play with the chicken? Well, go see Brittany. She'll play with you. Go see Brittany. That's what it is. She wants to play. She's buttering me up. All of the sugars were to butter me up so that I would go play with her. And just so that it's clear, I spent about 30 minutes before I came on stream playing with her, and I have little puppy claw marks where we battled to prove it. Got one right there. Yeah. Count Rugen is the real jerk, though. Right? She just wants attention. She's probably thinking that I'm crazy, but she really just wants to play. even though we just had extensive play and she was panting at the end of it. So anyway. All right. Other than the noble courts in Europe at the time, there were also these kind of what were called free judges. And free here not meaning you didn't have to pay for them. In fact, they actually were for hire. Because they were basically groups of judges or individual judges that you could sort of hire to adjudicate a particular situation. This is a great photo, but remember, we're talking about the medieval period here. Here is a medieval judge. And you can see here that he's got his little document that contains the law, and he's got a really long E.T. pointy finger. Hurt. And he's being accusatory here. Is that his Walkman? It's not a Walkman. It's the law. He is the law. But these free judges would sort of like wander around and show up and go, hey, does anybody need a judge? Behold, the finger of justice. Right? The finger of justice points at you. So these judges would literally just kind of go around and they would say like, hey, anybody need some judging? And you could kind of hire these people, and I mean, you're hiring them to act impartially, but I mean, let's be honest. If you pay them enough money, they're probably going to give you the rule that you want. And what ends up happening is that certain small communities, especially poor communities that were being overseen by richer individuals, which is basically, all of Europe, because feudalism, would sometimes have to scrap together and pay for these judges who didn't really have a set jurisdiction. They kind of just, deliberated and did their judge thing and then left. But this might sometimes be the only way that a small community could hope to gain justice against one of their nobles. Because in most situations, a peasant could not go to court and accuse a noble of doing anything, right? This sounds an awful lot like Judge Judy or the People's Court. It was kind of like that. It kind of was. The cases are real. That's how you know the man was a judge. He had an abnormally long finger. Yeah. Judge eats, shoots, and leaves, right? Pretty much. So it's kind of a messy situation in Europe during the medieval and Renaissance period, because you have these noble courts and these noble judges that run around and do their thing. And then you have these local people that, if they can scrap together enough money, can hire a judge or hire a constable. So this is where we get the delineation between sheriff, who gets appointed, and constable, who gets elected. So sheriff is going to be kind of a government figure that is an agent of the court, where a constable is going to be a local level, on the ground, keeper of the peace, justice kind of person, right? Some of that is preserved in today's system in the United States. All right, let us skip over, because we need to talk about... I'm actually running out of time here. We need to talk about Japan a bit. And we need to talk about the Japanese police force called the Machibugyo. Machibugyo. Ah, come on here. There we go. Fit. Boom. I say so. Magic. It works. Who are these people? Well, here's the thing. When we get to the Edo period, so again, we're kind of moving through time. We've gone through the medieval period and through the Renaissance period, and now we're getting to 1600s, and we'll talk about Edo, the Tokugawa shogunate in Japan. When they take over, one of the things that they do is they centralize the rule of law across the board for everybody. And under this new Tokugawa shogunate, you're going to have the shogun, who is the head of everything. And then under them, you're going to have your daimyo, who are sort of your regional commanders. But under the daimyo, you're going to have Machibugyo. And then later, the Neo Tokyo Municipal Police, right? And this is, of course, where you get your different sectors, and of course, all of your people like Togusa and basically, we're talking about Ghost in the Shell here. If you haven't ever seen Ghost in the Shell, you should probably go watch that. Ghost in the Shell is amazing. So, what is a Machibugyo? So, this is a samurai class official, one of the highest non-daimyo positions that you could have inside of Japan. So, if you haven't made it to the daimyo level yet, you're probably going to be one of these Machibugyo. This is going to be a person that is almost certainly going to be appointed, if not by the daimyo, sometimes by the shogun himself. The series is decent too, so we'll have to be careful here, Tuna, because there are multiple series. The Ghost in the Shell standalone complex has 2 series. Those are both absolutely excellent. The Laughing Man series especially is so good. So good. The newest one, I couldn't stand. I could not cut the new one. It's way too bright. It's like they forgot that Ghost in the Shell was supposed to be gritty. I couldn't cut the animation. It just wasn't for me. So, Jabba's rule as daimyo was long and prosperous. I'm curious how the reign of Boba will last. Me neither. You watched a few episodes, were like, nope, yeah, that's pretty much the way that it went for me too, Lumpy. It's like, no, this is not Ghost in the Shell. No, this is not it. All right, so your Machibugyo is going to be appointed, and this is your head justice officer. This is the person whose job it is to keep the peace, to enforce the laws, to make sure that things are stable. The Tokugawa shogunate is going to be really, really big on this idea of keeping the peace. Everybody stays in line. Everybody does their thing. You are supposed to follow the rules. You're supposed to be honorable. You know, this whole code of Bushido gets really, really, really heavily enforced. And the Machibugyo are also going to have a quite large jurisdiction over certain judicial matters. So they're going to be kind of like a combination mayor and sheriff and judge. And they're actually going to have people under them that are given individual names because, again, this is a hierarchical scale. So you have Yoriki, who are kind of like your sergeants. So a Machibugyo would be like a police captain or a commissioner maybe. And then Yoriki are sort of your sergeants who are over large groups of enlisted kind of foot soldier people or beat cops. Those are called Doshin. You're kind of just everyday walkers and, talkers and investigators and stuff like that. But one of the things that I think is really interesting about the Japanese police system is that they actually had a whole set of weapons that were symbols of their office. And if you've ever seen the movie Yojimbo, which I hope you have, if you haven't ever seen Yojimbo, it's an amazing movie. It's Kira Kurosawa is the writer and director. It has Toshiro Mifune playing the titular Yojimbo, and it's a great movie. I recently just watched it again with my wife and really enjoyed it, even though I'd seen it probably 6 or 7 times. And I mention that because the mayor of the little city is actually one of these people. He's probably going to be, if not a Yoriki, perhaps even a Machibugyo, but he carries one of these. This is what is called a jite. It's spelled Jitte, a jite. This is a symbol of your authority. So this is kind of like your nightstick. But What's interesting about it is this, is first off, you can beat the junk out of somebody with it because it's really just a cast iron rod. But this little thing right here, sword breaker, but not really. Yeah. This little thing right here is to catch a blade. So if somebody swings a sword at you, you can catch it in here. Now there's this idea here that if you caught the blade in the jite like this, that you could twist it and you could break the samurai's sword or the brigand's sword. If you had the wrist strength to do that, go for it. It's mostly just to keep you from getting the junk kicked out of you. It's more likely to put some tension on the blade and pin it down or move it out of the way so that you can disarm somebody than it is to break the blade of their sword.
Respect my daughter.
Right? So the jite is the mark of your office, and this was carried around by people who were supposed to be in charge, that you were supposed to listen to, and this was a symbol of authority. That particular jite that I showed you was actually on sale at an auction, and man, I really wish I could have bought that. It went for about $1,600, which is way more than I could afford, but also, in my opinion, not nearly what it's worth for something to be an authentic piece from the Edo period. Yeah, it's not too bad. That's kind of a steal, but way out of my price range. All right. So, where do we go next? Well, okay. I know that one of the things that a lot of people are thinking about when we said police was American police. And yeah, we'll talk about that a bit here. And I want to talk about this mostly because I want to dispel some rumors. And specifically some rumors that run around like mad on the internet because, well, just to be honest, the internet is full of bad rumors. So let's dispel some rumors. When the colonies of America were set up, and this is the 1600s, well, technically the late 1500s, early 1600s, the internet would never lie. I know. The colonial structure of municipal government was a copy and paste of the way that things were done in England. And one of the things that gets thrown around a whole lot in the internet or on the internet is this idea that the modern police in America were originally slave catchers. This is a vast and dramatic misinterpretation of the truth. Let's talk about where they came from. First off, where they came from is a group called the Night Watch. Okay, so if you've ever read Terry Pratchett or if you know anything about basically any British thing ever, you'll know that the Night Watch is sort of like kind of a police force. But really all they do is walk around at night and ring a bell and tell you what hour it is. And, you know, The Night Watch by Rembrandt? Oh yeah, absolutely. You know nothing, Jon Snow. So here is a drawing of what was originally an etching of a 1600s night watchman. I should have picked that one, Lumpy, and I didn't even think about it. I was just trying to Google stuff. Yeah, we got a dog here. We've got a guy who's carrying around a big sort of stick here. He's got a lamp. He's got a bell. And here is your night watchman. Let me see if I can. Now let me see if I can arrange this. Yeah, here we go. Here's your night watchman. So this technically would have been the Dutch Night Watch. This by Rembrandt. But you see here, your people walking around. They've got guns. They're armed. They've got their dogs over here in the corner. And their job is, keep the peace, watch the stuff, do the thing, right? So this is what the original stuff was. If you came to the American colonies and you said, what's the government look like? Well, the government is going to look like there's a colonial governor. That governor is going to have agents of the court. Now, there was still nobility in America at that time because a lot of the people that came over to run the colonies were nobles from England. So you could still have agents of the court. And some of the colonies were directly operated by the crown. They were called royal colonies. And in those colonies, the governor was the person chosen by the king. And then when they got over here, that person would have sheriffs. And they would have magistrates that answered directly to the colonial governor. And the small cities or the small villages that lived further out, they would have night watches. And they would have constables. Were fancy hat a requirement? Absolutely. Because if you don't wear the fancy hat, who even knows that you're in charge, right? Police pupper. Pet the dog. Apparently, the original is a whole wall. I have not heard about that. I'll have to look into that. I love those little things where it's like, oh well, this isn't even the real painting, or this isn't even the whole version of it, and you're like, oh, really? Oh, right. So, the first police in America were basically just the night watch. When did they do their thing? At night. Were they constantly running around catching slaves? No. They were just the night watch. And that's what they did. And that's the way that it was for a really long time. A really long time. We're talking 150 plus years. That's really all that it was. Now, where does this idea come from? Okay, so we need to do some distinguishing here. There is a group that is in most colonies, and then when we transition over to states, they're still night watchmen. But in the South, especially once the Revolutionary War is over and America gains access to territory between the Atlantic seaboard and the Mississippi River, and people start moving out to the territories, you're going to get two different types of law enforcement figures. First, you're going to get the marshals. Now, the marshals are going to be agents of the United States government. And, you've seen this. The old-fashioned badge. This, by the way, comes from the very, very early 1800s. The marshals are actually instituted in the late 1700s. But they would be agents of the United States government. And here's the thing. Their biggest job when they were first created was really just doing paper service. They were warrant officers. They were summons deliverers. They were bailiffs in court. They were literally officers of the court. So they processed a whole bunch of stuff. The reason why you sort of see these people in the later 1800s riding out into the middle of nowhere is because the marshals had to go find these people, right? As America is spreading, I'm still looking at Japan here on the map. I guess I can go this way and it would be faster, right? As America is spreading here into this new territory, those aren't organized as states yet. So you have a territorial governor who has, jurisdiction within the territory, but he might be the only government official that's there. So the United States government has to have some way to project its authority into these territories. And one of the ways that they did that was with the Marshal Service, right? Okay. No man escapes the manhunters, right? So that's the thing. One of the things that would happen is somebody on, let's say somebody in Virginia would do something stupid and get a warrant out for their arrest. And they knew, oh, if I just run off into the territories, nobody will go find me. So they run over here to, say, Wisconsin, which wasn't a state yet. Well, who's going to go find them? The marshals would. That was their job. You go find so-and-so and you drag them back to court in Virginia and you make them stand trial, right? So you have that service, and they are distinct from the Night Watch because these are government-appointed individuals that are paid by the government, as opposed to a Night Watch person who is basically just hired by the local people and paid by the local people. Now, this is where the crazy comes in, because you also have slave patrols. So this is the sort of like, I told you it's all slavery. No. Usually what ends up happening on the internet is that somebody is trying to make an argument that police are inherently anti-black because they originally started as slave patrols. And they try to draw a straight line between slave patrols and modern police officers. And they say, this is where police came from. That is a dramatic oversimplification of the situation. In relation to the Paw Patrol, no, I don't think so. I do know quite a bit about Paw Patrol because my nieces and nephews went through a phase where they absolutely loved that. Anyway, so the slave patrols are people who were hired. These were not government officials. They were just hired by rich slave owners to go find runaway slaves. All right. So this is not police. This is basically bounty hunters that go out to find runaway slaves. Now, some of these people actually incorporated and made agencies that were like, we're the official slave hunters of, South Mississippi or something like that. And, they would get a reputation for being the people to go to. But these were not agents of the government. These were usually people that were hired by individuals or by groups to go find slaves. Now, here's where things get squirrely. In 1850, the government of the United States passed something called the Fugitive Slave Act. And this was part of a compromise between slave states and free states that were about to not, basically a decade later would end up becoming two separate countries and then fight a civil war. The Fugitive Slave Act did a lot of stuff to people like night watchmen and people like marshals. And it gave new powers to the slave patrols. When the Fugitive Slave Act was passed, it compelled by law anybody that was asked to help slave patrols. So it gave the right of slave patrols to go into the north. So they could cross state boundaries now and go up into the north looking for runaway slaves. And if they asked you, they could compel you by law to help them find runaway slaves, to disclose information that you had on where runaway slaves might be, or to assist them in their search for people that might be aiding runaway slaves. People like Underground Railroad people. So in a way, this makes certain groups like Night Watches in the North and like U.S. Marshals end up having to help slave patrols. But this was not something that was added to their job. It's not like every Night Watch at that point immediately became a slave patrol. If a slave patrol showed up in your city, and they said, we want you to help us look for these people. You had to legally help them, but that was not your job, right? And the thing is, they could basically ask anybody. They didn't even have to ask the night watch. They could go to the local mayor and say, we want you to let us dig through all of your jail. And the mayor had to let them go dig through the jail. So this is not turning night watchmen and it's not turning marshals into slave patrols. That is not what is happening here. That is something that is an oversimplification that gets blown way out of proportion. Now, also don't hear me say that the judicial system in America is not slanted towards anybody that's not white, right? The legal system in America was built by white people to establish white people to be in power and suppress black and brown and non-white people. That's evident and clear, and we can have that discussion all day long. But the Fugitive Slave Act did not turn night watches into slave patrollers. And I've seen that argued, and it's just not true. Okay, so that being said, I hope that cleared up some of that misinformation that has been running around. And now we can get out here and talk about the Wild Wild West, because I'm sure that's what really everybody wants to talk about. You know, people like this guy. This is Wyatt Earp, one of the most famous U.S. Marshals in history. Of course, he and his buddies were the people that were famous for, cleaning up Tombstone, Arizona. You tell them I'm coming and hell's coming with me. I almost here used a picture of Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp, but I figured we actually have a picture of Wyatt Earp. I should actually show him. Okay, I see what you did there. Yep. All right, so as the rest of the Americas open up, all of these things end up getting added to the United States through hook or by crook, one way or the other. And, I'm your Huckleberry too. Tell me when. It seems Mr. Ringo is an educated man. Now I know I hate him. I love Tombstone. Such a great movie. I need to watch that again sometime soon. You've seen a lot of movies with Wyatt Earp. Oh yeah, he's super famous. He's one of the most famous people ever. That is one of the U.S. Marshals. The Marshals are going to get a big revival during this period of time. And the Marshals are also going to have a lot of expanded powers in the Wild West. Because it's a much broader area. People are much more sparsely populated. There's a lot more room to kind of run around and be crazy. And it's during this time that the Marshals start doing the things like they can deputize people. They can make posses. They can go after horse thieves. They can administer frontier justice, that kind of stuff. But even then, a lot of the shooting is kind of glamorized, right? A lot of the movies emphasize the Marshals being the rootin' tootin' six-shooter kind of people when they were still really just agents of the court. Their job was still to serve subpoenas, to enforce warrants, to collect fines and stuff like that. So they still did a fair amount of paperworky kind of stuff. It wasn't all just run and gun firing over the hip kind of stuff. There was a lot of kind of humdrum kind of stuff that they ended up doing. I guess I should put Marshals back up on here. So the Marshals were a big part of this, and as different states and territories formed, KP here. There's Raylan. You've said Raylan like 6 times now. There he is. This is the most famous U.S. Marshal ever. This is Raylan Givens. If you don't know who Raylan Givens is, you should watch TV more. There's Raylan. There he is. His dreamy little Timothy Olyphant eyes. This, by the way, is from the TV show Justified. One of the best TV shows that's ever been made. This was supposed to be one of the goofy pictures. Anyway. I had a whole setup for it. He was being impatient. What about Cobb Vance? Okay, no. No. All right, so your good old fashioned Wild West stuff, your Red Dead Revolver or Red Dead Redemption kind of stuff. A lot of that is glamorized. A lot of the stuff that the Marshals were doing. If you haven't seen Justified, it's really, really good. Justified is one of the greater TV shows that's ever been made. I would probably put it top 10 favorite TV shows ever. I know Cave, if Cave is still in the chat, Cave says it is the greatest TV show that's ever been made. I don't know if it's number one. I need to read the books. I haven't read any of the books. I think after my current book, I might move that. Oh yeah, Justified's really good. Raylan Givens, he's not a real person, by the way. It was just a joke. Raylan Givens is the character that is the main character of Justified. The books are all prequels to the show. Huh. Okay. Well, I mean, I can dig that. He's probably still the same character, but it's just like in the stuff like when he's in Miami. I don't know. You don't tell me. Don't tell me. I'll figure it out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is actually the end of what I had prepared, because after that, when we get to the Industrial Revolution, basically the police turn into what they are now. And I think everybody has a pretty good idea of what the police are now. So I don't think we need to necessarily go any further into that. But there we go. The basic premise of the first season came from the final short story, and the rest is all origin. Okay, cool. You've only read the first book. It's a strange mix of Get Shorty and Justified. Good timing. You must be on your Merry Potato way. Thank you for the stream. Oh, thank you for coming by, Lumpy. And I always love the insight, and thank you again for the math. And have a good night. I hope you have a great sleep. All right, ladies and gents. It is that time. And I need to get over here to my creator dashboard. And I need to start looking at some stuff. Oh, wow. We had a... What did we actually do? Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm seeing what we did here. All right. So... we're going to do two things. First thing that we're going to do. We are going to... we're going to take requests for the next viewer request stream. And so if you think of something that you want to stream, say so now. And I will take the first 4 ideas that pop up in chat. And it can be pretty much anything, but I reserve the right to say no or tweak it a little bit. So if you have an idea of something that you want to be a stream, throw it in the chat and we'll just take the first 4. And then we'll have ourselves a bit of a vote. Moose says Third Crusade. Ivan the Terrible. Oh, that's a good one. Good old Russian leaders. History of Ireland. That's a bit too broad. Give me a narrower window. I'll put Ireland on here, but you need to narrow that one down for me. Something like maybe a particular period of Ireland. History of Ireland is way too big. The Troubles. Did ancient people just go all Batman on evildoers? Yeah, pretty much. Batbird, we've already done Rasputin. We have already done Rasputin as a viewer request stream. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but I can look it up and tell you what number it was. Viewer request number 37 was Rasputin. So number 37. So if you go back in the VODs and find number 37, you can totally watch that one. All right, so we need one more. History of the British Museum. I think I could probably do that. That one would be tough, but I could probably do it. All right, so here's what's going to happen. I am going to click go, and when I click go, there's going to be a poll that starts. And you're going to see a little arrow that's at the top of your chat. And everybody gets to vote. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're following or if you're subbed or whatever. Anybody that's in the chat room right now can vote. And go. And everybody gets to vote, and we'll tally the votes. And whichever one wins is the one that we will do next. So, yeah. Everybody... Even Vipers gets to vote. Of course he gets to vote. Everybody. So there are, I guess, 17 viewers. So there should be 17 votes. Everybody gets to vote. Everybody gets to vote. Can you all hear that when I put my tea down? That microphone's really hot. Maybe I need to back off that a little bit. Kind of makes the Law and Order sound. Everybody needs to go vote. Todos los gentes, go vote. Everybody go and vote. Go and vote. Go and vote. Everybody go vote. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not everybody has voted. Go and vote. Go do the vote thingy. Everybody go do the vote. Ah, come on. Somebody vote for one of the two that's... I don't want to... we're going to have a runoff. I have heard of the Gurkhas. Hey, there we go. It won't let you it won't let you vote more than once. It's rigged. Yeah, so are you talking about the Gurkhas, who are the Indian troops that were brought from India to World War I that fought with really big long curved knives and gave the Germans nightmares? Yeah. All right. Ivan the Terrible is our next viewer request stream. We will talk about Mother Russia and how scary Ivan was. Okay, Dirk. So, now, that being said, we can, at this point, actually choose the one after that. So, let me get my list out, and then I will call roll. And we'll see who is here. All right, roll call. Do we have a David Peterson? David, are you still here? David Peterson, are you still here? Speak now. All right. I see you know David. All right. Metrand, are you here? Do we have a Metrand? Metrand. Metrand, art thou here? Speak thy peace. The guys that the only appropriate response is, well, boys, we're about to see war crime. Yeah, pretty much. All right. Third on the list, Batbird, who is right here. Batbird, you had mentioned that you wanted to redeem a channel point reward. Are you ready to do so? Hast thou the 20,000 points and the topic on hand? If so, we can make that happen right now. Sci-fi is not on that list, but I can add you to that list. Sci-fi, the last time that we spoke about it, I didn't know if you were actually like, I definitely know what I'm talking about, because I think that the last time that we spoke, it was like, I'm still trying to decide. You thought you redeemed it, but you didn't have a topic. We refunded that to you. So we actually gave you that back until you had a topic. Do you have a topic now? Because if so, I can put you back on the list. Hey, Nix, what up? Welcome, welcome. No, that is the wrong button. I was waiting to hear from Sci-Fi. But we can go ahead and do... You learned something new today, the internet can leak. Yeah, pretty much. All right. Batbird has chosen again. What shall it be, Batbird? The Talmud. Make it so. All right. Sci-Fi, let me know. Because what happened is that you put in the redemption. I was like, what do you want to do? And you're like, I don't know. And then, we've had this in the past where people have redeemed it but then not had an idea, and it gets kind of like log jammy. So we refunded the points, but what I will do, because you had redeemed it before, if you have your topic now and you know what you want, I will put you at the top of the list to even everything out, if that makes sense. If thou hast an idea of what you want. Are you even still here, Sci-Fi? Did I lose you in the process? All right, how about this? I'll put you with a question mark. Question mark. Okay. Did you not see his chat? The last one that I saw was, oh dang, I thought I redeemed it, but I didn't have a topic. If Sci-Fi has said anything since then, I have not seen it. And it could be that my Twitch has been a butt. Let me go over here and see if I missed something. Oh, and of course my Twitch chat is like 10 minutes behind. Oh, no, that's Batbird. I was talking about Sci-Fi Taoist. Yeah. I will message you on Discord. How about that? And we'll get it all straightened out. And if I need to, I can make things happen. We'll get it all leveled out, one way or the other. All right. Anybody else have any questions or other point redemption things, or basically anything else going on prior to us finding somebody to go and raid Going and raiding. We're gonna go raid. Going to raid. Let's see who we might find on Knowledge Fellowship. See if anybody is streaming. I'm sure that there are. There are probably a million people. Boo-doo, boo, boo-doo, boo-doo, boo. Who we got? Who we got? Okay, so it got real quiet. And I don't know why. Maybe people are just pondering. Maybe the orb has arrived and we're all pondering the orb. But it is time for us to go do a raid. If nobody else has anything to add or ask or such, we shall go do the raid. Chat has been bugging today in multiple streams. Yeah, it's been kicking me in and out. When I was in Steve's chat earlier, it just kept dropping me from chat and dropping me from chat. And it would just keep saying, welcome to the chat room, welcome to the chat room, welcome to the chat room. So I don't know what's up. Maybe everybody's having issues and Twitch is just being a poopy pants. And that's quite possible. Tuna, I hope that it was everything that you dreamed it was. Oh, that reminds me. Before we go, one special thing. So, a few things. Very recently, the people in my community have been incredibly generous to me. For those of you that do not know, I also build models on stream, and I have acquired several new models, and I can show some of those off. Because the next model that I will be building is this lovely, gentle model here. So if you have been around Discord, you'll know that I have been kind of drooling over the cup noodles model. And it's actually a 1-to-1 model of a cup of cup noodles. That is put out by Bandai and officially licensed by Cup Noodle by Nissin. So this is the next model for model building. And maybe this weekend. We are very, very close to finishing the Zaku that we've been working on forever. Maybe this weekend we might put this old boy together. This is lovely, and I have a special place in my heart for this. This came from generous donations from viewers like you. We were also running a donation goal for this guy. This is the Zeong, which has come in, and we'll be building him after we do our cup noodles. This is paid for by generous donations from viewers like you. And wait, there's more. We have this lovely guy. This is a incredibly rare, limited edition Epion with shiny plating that was paid for with donations from viewers like you. You all are way too generous, and I never expect the level of generosity that you all show, and you make my heart feel warm and fuzzy on the inside, and I love you all. It's an honor and a pleasure to come hang out with people that are as cool as you are, and it makes the world not so dark. So purchase with Brittany's permission. With Brittany's encouragement. She tries to get me to spend more money on myself than I actually end up wanting to. So, you all are amazing, and you're awesome, and I am blown away by the level of support and generosity that you all have and that you have shown to a humble nerd like me. And before I get super mushy and emotional, let's go raid Cat Videos, who is working on a piece from The Witcher, which is appropriate because I talked about The Witcher earlier. It keeps him out of her hair. You all are great. We're going to go raid Cat Videos. Cat Videos is an amazing streamer. If you don't already follow Cat Videos, please do when we get there. Our battle cry, as always, is adventure, with all of those lovely adventure hats. If you have those emotes, you can throw those into the chat window. I will be back on Thursday night, 1900 Central Standard Time, and we're going to be catching up with what's going on in the Americas during this period of time, the 400s, or sorry, the 4th century of the current era. Lots of empire expanding, lots of killing people, and all that fun stuff. It'll be a good time, so come on back by Thursday. Until then, you all are amazing. Make sure that you love yourself. You guys are awesome, and I'll see you then. Take it easy.